John Hook's Newsmaker Saturday starts now.
And thanks for joining us. Since 1993, under former Governor Fife Symington, charter schools have flourished in Arizona. There are approximately 550 Arizona charter schools serving nearly 200,000 students statewide. And charter enrollment in Arizona has nearly doubled in the last decade alone, clearly providing an alternative for parents who want choice and options on where they send their kids to school. But charters are not without their problems. Problems with tax money that's been wasted at times, squandered at times by unscrupulous or greedy operators. Senator Kate Brophy McGee is trying to pass the most sweeping reforms in 25 years to tighten regulations on charters in Arizona. Will it get done? Will it be a stalemate? We're talking about it. Good to see you, Senator. Appreciate your time.
It's great to be here.
You weren't a big charter person early on. You've kind of gotten up to speed on this as time's gone on. Why is this issue so important to you?
Well, I've always been an advocate of school choice for parents. I believe that a parent's right is to choose the best educational setting for their children, and that includes charters and district schools. As a parent, I chose district schools, but I celebrate parents' rights to choose the best educational setting for their kid, and every kid learns differently.
Well, I think you and I, full disclosure, my kids are in public school, so they're not in charters. I don't have an axe to grind on charters, but choice seems to have been a good thing on balance in Arizona, has it not?
It's been one of the things that Arizona has done extraordinarily well.
So the need for tighter regulation now is because of, say, the Kramos Academy. We got a pretty gross example of somebody absconding with money and taking off. It was a former Bradley Academy, and taking off with money. That kind of thing, would this bill that you have proposed, and it got through committee this week, would it stop this kind of stuff?
What actually would stop a Kramos, or at least head it off at the pass, is a reform that Republicans passed in their budget this last session in 2018, which provided for financial accountability. It enables the State Board of Charter Schools to shut down a charter school that is financially operating with malfeasance. In the case the response was delayed. And what is happening now is we realize we need to beef up the State Board of Charter Schools board so that they have the staff to go out there and be on top of these problems.
So the growth and the proliferation of charters has created the need for more regulation because It's hard to oversee 250 charter or 550 charter schools.
Yes, yes.
And this is what you're trying to do.
They need people and they need the tools. So first off was the financial accountability tool passed last session. I also have introduced a bill to increase charter school staff to 10 employees, double it, so that you have enough employees to oversee that tool and to inspect these charter schools. This last piece, Senate Bill 1394, which passed out of committee, involves governance reforms, it involves procurement reforms, and it encompasses the transparency I think we need to really understand how these schools operate.
Let's dig down on that. Some of this, one of the requirements in your bill, and again, it's Senate Bill 1394, and this is important because, again, we've got 200,000 kids now in Arizona in charters. So this is a big deal. And it's public money.
Yes.
I mean, these are public schools. People think charters are private schools. They're not.
Correct.
Okay. One of the requirements would require charter operators to post a public website of the names of the governing board members, their revenues, their expenses, their assets, their liabilities, as well as how much it spends on teacher salaries, classroom instruction, special ed, admin, administration, facilities, and other things.
Absolutely.
So you want people to be able to look on a website and see where the money's going.
Absolutely.
That's the idea.
And that is part of how parents make their choices.
Who would oversee this? There was talk the Attorney General would kind of be the hammer in this if there were troubles. But it looks like the Auditor General is going to be the ultimate.
I think the Attorney General working alongside the Auditor General would be able to come in if requested by the State Board. We need your help. They requested the Attorney General's help with Kramos, and ultimately that led to criminal prosecution for fraud. So yes, the Attorney General and also the Auditor General would be on standby.
Charter operators, you know, the thing that has gotten people upset is they feel they've exploited some of the lax charter regulations to become wealthy. People becoming wealthy at the expense of running one of these schools and taking public money. Do you think you can get a handle on that through this bill?
I think we can certainly get an idea how much money is going to administrative expenses. If I go back to the financial accountability tool, we can look very carefully and monitor the leveraging of these properties, the leveraging of these assets. At the end of the day, charter school owners are, in effect, private companies, and they, like many other companies, contract with the state, in this case, to provide educational services. There are many other private companies that contract with the state to provide services. And
we've got 30 seconds. Private companies at times will fail. And this, yes, even though it's a school, and you hate to see that happen, that, yes, will happen.
Yes, the point I would make there is that, in effect, it's zero liability for the state, unless you get into criminal territory, because charter schools are paid in arrears for the students who go through their doors and learn on a monthly basis. The state has zero risk in the leveraging or financing of the properties.
Final thing. It's become a debate, it seems, between Democrats who think that the Republicans, through charters, are trying to basically gut public education, meaning traditional district schools, and that it's an either-or. Do you believe it is?
It shouldn't be an either-or. I do think both systems need to be equitable, equitably funded, equitably overseen. I think my bill goes a long way towards doing that. The fact that you have school districts, which are government bodies, and you have charter owners and operators, which are private corporations, means there will be some differences.
Phoenix Senator Kate Brophy McGee, appreciate it, and you know, good luck however it turns out.
Thank you.
We appreciate you being on Newsmaker Saturday. Coming up next on Newsmaker Saturday, a remarkable collection of photographs from the late Arizona Senator Barry Goldwater. This is remarkable as he chronicles the history of this state, the incredible topography and beauty of this great state of Arizona. It's on display in Scottsdale. Coming up next, we're going to meet his daughter and granddaughter next on Newsmaker Saturday. Welcome back to Newsmaker Saturday. You are going to enjoy this. Not only was he a five-term senator from Arizona, the Republican candidate for president in 1964, he was one of the most powerful political voices in American history. And Barry Goldwater was an Arizona and an American treasure. An Arizonan through and through, and among his many talents, pilot, ham radio operator, he was a gifted photographer and avid outdoorsman. And he often merged those two passions in some great works that are currently on display through June at the Scottsdale Museum of the West on Marshall Way in Scottsdale. Photographs by Barry M. Goldwater, the Arizona Highways Collection. And I'm joined today by Joanne Goldwater, who is the oldest of the Goldwater clan, and Allie Goldwater,
hi,
granddaughter. Thank you both for being here. Fabulous to see you. Your father, your grandfather, just, he captured Arizona in its infancy. He was born when this was a territory, grew up here, and we're going to show some of the images throughout the next segment. But to put this out there and to restore it, because these are really priceless original photographs that you've got to restore now, and that's your mission, right, Allie?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I, started thinking about this several years ago, and I was worried that the images, and there's 15,000 negatives out there, which are housed at various locations, including ASU, U of A, Heard Museum, and then the family has its own personal collection. So my fear was what's going to happen to these negatives, because negatives fade. So what I decided to do is I needed to create a foundation. So over a year ago, I created the Barry and Peggy Goldwater Foundation with the mission of the preservation and restoration of all of my grandfather's negatives, as well as 25 miles of film that he shot throughout his life.
He was one of the first to go down the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, he was, I think,
in a river raft, right?
In the cataract in one of the cataract
What
boats.
year would that have been? Do you know?
Well, it was before 1940 when he did the Pell.
Yes, it was right around when my brother Michael was to be born, which would have been 39.
He did several trips, so.
And
these
mother,
were, I mean,
Mother wrote Norman Neville my mother's mother, my grandmother, wrote Norman Neville.
You can't get these kind of shots
letter,
without
no.
diving in deep into Arizona
that's
wilderness.
Canyon de Chelly.
Yeah, Canyon de Chelly. And he traveled all over the state.
Yeah. He had, he was a pilot. So obviously,
Right,
a lot of
right.
people know that, obviously. So, he would just, take his plane and land wherever he could on a dirt road. And, my mother went on many trips with him.
Oh, you? Lucky
yeah.
you.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
we flew up to Rainbow Lodge, which was the only way you could get to Rainbow Bridge then. And we'd land on what looked like cattle tracks and just, ridges from the wagons and stuff.
And he'd set it down.
And he'd set it
the
down
plane
there, and we were always flying all over the state.
Is that a familiar? Well, this is when he was a
That was Kenilworth.
Kenilworth School.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where most people went. I went to Emerson, and Emerson and Kenilworth were kind of the grade schools.
How old is your father in that picture, do you suppose?
On that last picture, teenager.
Teenager.
Yeah.
And this one?
Oh,
I don't know who actually took that picture.
I mean, he
but
looks like Clint Eastwood in that
I know.
picture.
he was like a movie star.
Yeah,
I don't know. He was probably in his 50s,
Right
60s.
there?
Yeah, 40s,
yeah.
50s.
40s.
And he continued. He took some of these pictures above Phoenix in a dirigible, right? In a
Hot air balloon, the balloon, yeah.
He took some pictures, some aerials that are amazing because you see the incredible growth of the city.
Oh, it's unbelievable when you look at some of these photographs or these negatives.
Let's
which I'm
keep
looking
rolling
at.
through. I want to just show
Yeah.
a couple more because I want people to see some of the incredible work. First of all, a lot of folks may not know, photographing Native Americans is not an easy task. Most do not want you to photograph them. I've personally been told when we've been on the reservation, people feel that it steals and captures their soul.
Yes.
So they're very against this, but your dad and your grandfather knew these folks, had a trading post, right?
Yes,
So
Rainbow Lodge.
they trusted him to do this. That's how he got these pictures.
Right,
that's
and
right.
what he would photograph, he would then go back home, and he had a dark room in his home, and he would make a print from, and return it back to the person that he photographed.
Back to the individual.
You
So
did.
they actually really loved that, and they were, intrigued by this, and it was, it was almost like, here's a gift in return.
Joanne, this picture,
This is an interesting shot.
tell me about this.
That's Uncle Bob and my dad in the powder room. Now, I think that's down in the basement because behind the bar in the basement of our house in Phoenix. And my dad, all behind
been in
him
the basement.
is a montage of friends and celebrities that he made wallpaper out of.
He was
That's been
running
a
for
long
president.
time ago with John.
When he was running for president, can you just give us a quick insight into, after Kennedy had been assassinated, he's running against Johnson. It looked like a long shot, and he took a pretty good beating in the election.
Yes.
Did you know inside the family that was coming? Did you all kind of say, Dad's not going to win? But
No, we were all very upbeat about it.
Really?
Yeah, we were all together that night of the election returns.
Where were you?
Up at my dad's. We were all up on the hill, and we just watched the returns come in.
How did he take it?
I think he was probably fairly relieved.
I've actually heard that there are people who run for president who are relieved when it's over.
Yes, I can imagine.
Yeah, the stress of it. Your dad, your grandfather, what year do you think that might have been? 80s?
Oh,
That's wonderful.
That was taken by Brad Armstrong, and that was the last formal portrait of my
no kidding.
grandfather.
And I have that.
So this is in the 90s, like around
Yeah.
97, 98?
Well, yes, because he died in 99.
Yep. So he, 98.
98 at
He died
89.
in 98.
At
and
89.
I think this was in like 97, and Brad, you know, kind of told me a little bit about him going up on the hill and taking this photograph, and my grandfather questioning what kind of camera he was shooting with and how he was angling it. You know, he was
still the photographer.
You know, if people would like to learn more, they can log on to our website. It has all kinds of information. They can also help with the, you know, funding and gifting and things like that.
Sure.
You know, we have some actual prints.
Hold one up,
well, we have
because
some prints that we offer on the website that people can actually purchase. So this is all 100% goes to the Burien and Peggy Goldwater Foundation, and our website is goldwaterfoundation.org.
Thank you for that.
So all you have to do is
Simple.
log on. Yep.
Goldwaterfoundation.org.
It tells the whole story of everything.
And that helps for the restoration of all of these photos, because you don't want to lose this. This stuff is too precious.
And I also have to do a shout out, because SRP,
of course,
climbed on board with just from the very beginning when I started this, and they said, we are here to help.
That's
and they
nice.
have been tremendous, and I thank them so much.
Thank you so much, Allie,
you.
Joanne.
Really
Great to see you both. We appreciate it, and
pleasure.
We're just happy that the Goldwaters are part of the Arizona fabric of where we live and where we are right now.
Well, we're happy to keep the name alive, and
that's not going to be a problem. Thank you. Thank you both.
John.
We'll be back in a minute on Newsmaker Saturday. Thank you.
Thanks.
Really appreciate it. Welcome back to Newsmaker Saturday. I just realized that it's become ladies' night between the Goldwater clan and Kate Brophy McGee. We're now joined by Senate President Karen Fann. She is a Republican serving in the Arizona State Senate since 2017, 6 terms in the state House of Representatives before that, and she is the second woman to be the Senate President in the state of Arizona. Good to see you.
You too. Nice to meet you.
Brenda
John.
Burns was the first.
Yes, she was, about 20 years ago.
Okay, you've got a lot going on in the Senate. The Senate, after the election that just passed in November, the Senate really didn't change. The makeup didn't change much. 17, 13.
Correct.
Republican, Democrat.
Correct.
The House changed. It got a lot tighter.
31 and 29.
Showing kind of a change of what may be happening in Arizona. In the Senate, the key issue that I can think of right now that we've been talking a lot about is the drought contingency plan. Mm-hmm. Where are we on that right now? And Arizona's water future, as we're getting dumped on with snow and rain, this is a big, big deal. It is the future of the state.
You're right. It's a very, very big deal. We've actually been working on it for about 5 years because we thought we had until 2030 to actually put this to bed, so to speak. And the drought got more severe than we expected quicker. So we really had to put the gas on this last week, and that's why you heard so much about it this past year of trying to push and getting it done.
Is it the drought, or is it simply growth and usage?
It's both, okay? So first of all, you have to remember that we're actually using less water per capita now than we were 20 or 30 years ago because we are being more conscientious about our water. But we do have more people here living in Arizona. We are growing. And it is partly drought. We don't get the rain and snowfalls. Of course, that's hard to say right now, right?
Sure.
But we don't get the rain and snowfalls that we have had in past decades.
One of the things that people may not know, and SRP enlightened me on this, and I had no idea. They said, do you know what the top usage, our peak of water usage in Arizona was? Do you know what year it was?
No, I don't.
1986. Their point being, as you start to trade ag land, agricultural land, which uses a tremendous amount of water.
That's correct.
For residential, which uses far less, you start to actually, the curve changes.
That's correct.
So you have some demographic things happening, a lot more people, we're 7.5 million, yet we're actually using less water than we were in the mid-'80s, which seems impossible. Right?
No, it seems to, but it's correct. You brought up a very good point about ag water versus residential water, but we're all getting a lot smarter about water usage, and so now we have like low flush toilets and shower heads. We're working more on zero-scape landscaping and water harvesting. So we're doing a lot as a society to be good stewards of the water we do have.
When you start talking about this, it seems it comes down to a couple of really big interests: agriculture and Native American lands and builders.
Obviously our Native American lands. That's very important for their livelihood, but yes, it's a lot to do with the home builders and the growth versus the agricultural, and then of course the municipality uses.
Believe it or not, we've only got about a minute left. Financially in Arizona, you guys, the rainy day fund right now, this is contingency money in case everything goes sour. Where are you at right now?
We have a little over $400 million in the rainy day fund. We would like to get that up to $1 billion this year. Yes.
That's a place we've never been before.
No, I don't think we have.
500 million might have been the high water mark that we've ever been on the rainy day fund. Do you believe that we are in pretty good shape financially right now, and what are the projections on how long these so-called good times will last? Revenues are up.
Revenues are up. We're actually about $1 billion ahead of more than what we projected, so that's why we want to put that away in the savings account, if you will, plus fund education and plus take care of some one-time funding. We expect this to go on another couple of years, but we do not want to be put in the same position we were 10 years ago, so we want to be very prudent about the money we do have.
We have more time than I thought we did.
Good.
I thought we had a minute. We've got about 2.5 minutes. To you, the key issue right now in the Senate is what?
Well, the budget is very, very important because we made a lot of promises to our education folks, and we need to keep those promises. We've already touched on water. Obviously, that's very important. We have a lot of Prop 301. We're bringing that back again for funding education to make sure that we have enough money there to take care of those needs. There's just a lot of issues going on, and all we're trying to do is just balance everything right now to keep the economy going strong.
Last year, education was job one. Is it continuing to kind of take most of the oxygen out of the room at the Capitol, that education is still the top issue?
It is still the top issue. We've made a lot of progress over last year, but we realize we need to follow through with those promises, and so that's why it's still at the top of our list.
How concerned, even though the governor, you know, his push to really try to raise, and you guys had to do it as well, to raise teacher salaries and try to help them out. But you talk to teachers and they talk about their rising healthcare costs, their rising pension costs. Then after you strip it all down per paycheck, they're kind of spinning their wheels still. How do you get beyond this?
They are getting substantial raises, but John, also remember that that's not an issue just with teachers. That is an issue with every one of us in our everyday lives. I'm sure, you know, in your job, at my job, I have a business, a construction business. That's a big issue as well for us. I'm just trying to, you know, be able to keep affording healthcare costs for my employees. So that is a bigger issue that affects every one of us and not just the teachers.
How do you feel about it, the legislature? You kind of have people who jump back and forth from the House to the Senate, back to the Senate. It kind of gets around this term limit business. How do you feel about that? Is it healthy?
Well, there's two sides of that. On one side, I will tell you that it's sure nice to have some experienced people down there that understand the history. We work on legislation that sometimes may take years to get through because you just have to keep advancing it a little bit of a time. So having people in that continuity is there. But also remember, we only serve for 2 years, so at a time.
Right.
So consequently,
in
we can be in either body. We can be voted out every other year.
We've got about 15 seconds left. If there were an issue out there that you want people to keep their eye on the ball, what would it be?
The no texting, the hands-free bill.
I didn't even get to it. That's going to happen, isn't it?
I hope so.
Good to see you.
You bet. Thanks, John.
Senate President. And we appreciate Karen Fann being here, along with the Goldwater folks and Brophy McGee. We will see you next week on Newsmaker Saturday. Thank you.